Welcome in, everyone. We are diving deep today
Yeah.
into Dealey Plaza, the
Mhm.
site of the JFK assassination, and
Right.
we are going to use, for this one, the Dealey Plaza Echo,
Yeah.
a research journal
Mm.
published by some folks over in the UK who are dedicated
Yeah.
to uncovering every detail they possibly can
It's amazing, like the stuff they get.
about this event.
Yeah, they've got historical overviews and firsthand accounts
Yeah.
and explorations of conspiracy theories and even a book review, all focusing on Dealey Plaza.
So we're not
What
just
the-
talking about the assassination itself.
No,
We're going to all the way back
Yeah.
to the very beginnings of Dealey Plaza.
understand
Yeah.
how it became the backdrop for such a
To understand how it became the backdrop for such a world-altering event.
world-altering event. Exactly.
And it all starts, with John Neely Bryant,
Right,
the
right.
founder of Dallas,
Yeah.
and his first cabin right there within the boundaries of what we now know as Dealey Plaza.
Oh, wow. So like right in that spot.
Right in that spot. Talk about a front row seat to history.
Oh, man, yeah.
He'll do
Imagine.
it right.
And just to think,
Like a simple cabin
a simple cabin on a riverside bluff,
on a riverside bluff, slowly evolving into a bustling city center.
evolving into a bustling city center. The construction of the Houston Street Viaduct, the arrival of Union Terminal, these were all
Turning points.
turning points in the plaza's development.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was that devastating flood of 1908
Oh, yeah.
that really reshaped the city's approach to planning and development.
Absolutely, yeah. The flood, it really highlighted the need for better infrastructure and
great.
flood control, which
Yeah.
directly influenced how
Mhm.
Dealey Plaza was ultimately designed.
And then enters G.B. Dealey, a true Dallas icon
Okay.
and the founder of the Dallas Morning News.
And he envisions this plaza as a grand entrance to downtown,
Really?
a welcoming gateway for visitors
Great, grand, like a big
and residents.
Yeah.
A big, grand,
Yeah.
welcoming,
Like a big open.
gateway.
Yeah. Okay. So he turned it into the stage, one of event that would.
His vision turned Dealey Plaza into the stage for an event that would forever overshadow its intended purpose.
Forever overshadow its intended
A
purpose.
chilling reminder of how even the most carefully planned spaces
Yeah.
can become sites of unexpected tragedy.
Totally.
And a common misconception is
Yeah.
that G.B. Dealey actually owned the land
Oh, really?
where the assassination took place.
Okay.
But that's not true.
No. It's important to clarify that. The land had different owners over the years,
Yeah.
adding another layer
Adding
of
another
complexity to the plaza's history.
layer of complexity to the plaza's history. And speaking of complexity,
Right.
Dealey Plaza also carries the weight
Yeah.
of a much darker chapter from
Yeah.
its parent. The hanging of 3 black men
Wow.
back in 1860.
Yeah.
They were accused of starting a fire,
Yeah.
but the details surrounding their trial and execution are shrouded.
Yeah. That's
somehow-
controversy. This event just,
Yeah.
it adds a tragic dimension.
It has a tragic
It's
dimension.
just the plaza story.
See, the Plaza's story forcing us to confront,
Yeah.
the uncomfortable realities of racial injustice
Yeah.
that have long been woven into the fabric of American history.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It really makes you
A
think
powerful reminder
about how many layers of history are embedded into it.
that Dealey Plaza isn't just about the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
It's a place where the threads of progress,
Yeah.
tragedy,
Right. Ambition and injustice are all intertwined.
and injustice are all intertwined.
Right there.
Right there.
Wow.
And now we're going to kind of shift gears a bit
Okay.
and introduce you to a man named Warren Castor,
All right.
an employee at the Texas School Book Depository.
Okay.
And his story offers
A glimpse into
a fascinating glimpse into the lives of everyday people
Yeah.
caught up in the whirlwind of
Working.
events surrounding the assassination.
totally.
2 days before that fateful day in November,
Okay.
Castor bought 2 rifles,
Mm-hmm.
a Remington .22
Okay.
and a Mauser 30.03 from Sanger Harris Department Store.
Okay.
It was a perfectly ordinary purchase at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, but in hindsight, it's just
But in hindsight, it becomes almost eerie, doesn't it?
eerie.
It
It
is.
is. It's one of those chilling coincidences that
Yeah.
make you wonder.
I mean,
like the role of
He even showed the rifles to his colleagues,
in history.
including Lee Harvey Oswald at the depository. And then, of course, 2 days later.
Yeah. Of course, Castor was out of town on business during the assassination.
Right.
So his
His alibi is solid.
alibi is solid.
But imagine if he hadn't been.
Right. What if those rifles had never been brought into the building?
What if those rifles had never been brought into the building?
Right. Like,
The smallest actions can have
the smallest actions can have unforeseen consequences.
unforeseen consequences.
Yeah.
And in a case as scrutinized
Come on in, Kate.
as the JFK assassination,
Like the JFK assassination.
every detail, every coincidence.
Every detail, every coincidence
Yeah.
takes on a
takes on a heightened significance.
heightened significance.
And there's another twist to
Right.
Castor's story.
Yeah.
His friend almost decided to watch the motorcade
Oh, really?
from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository.
Wow. Can you imagine
Can you imagine
how differently things might have played out?
how differently things might have played out if he had been there?
If he'd been there, it really highlights the role of chance in shaping historical events.
The role of chance.
One seemingly insignificant decision
Yeah,
can lead to drastically
and
different
shaping these events. One seemingly insignificant decision
outcomes.
can lead to drastically different outcomes. It makes you ponder the what ifs.
It really does, yeah.
What ifs.
It certainly does.
And despite everything,
And despite every...
Warren Castor maintains
Warren Castor maintains that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Yeah, it's an important...
While some might see the coincidences as suspicious, Castor's perspective
It offers a reminder.
that offers a reminder
Even within a major historical event,
that even within a major historical event, individual experiences
Yeah.
and
the
interpretations
individual experiences and interpretations can vary widely.
and very widely. Okay, now let's delve into an area that's always sparked a lot of debate
Right.
and speculation.
Hmm.
The Kennedys' Cuban policies.
Huh.
The Dealey Plaza Echo explores
Yeah.
how these policies actually generated a lot of resentment
Okay.
among Cuban exiles.
Cuban exiles, yeah.
And even within
Yeah.
certain factions of the CIA.
The CIA. You can't underestimate the impact of the Bay of Pigs invasion
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Cuban Missile Crisis
Can't underestimate the impact of the Bay of Pigs
on the political landscape.
invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis on the political
Yeah, so-
landscape of
The
that.
Kennedy's handling of those
The
situations,
Kennedys' handling of those situations.
along with their crackdown on exile activities.
Along with their crackdown on those exile activities, created a climate
Created a climate of distrust and anger.
of distrust and anger.
Yeah. So for some, it wasn't just about
For some,
disagreements over policy. It was about
it wasn't just about disagreements over policy. It was about a sense of betrayal.
they felt like the Kennedys had abandoned them,
They felt like the Kennedys had abandoned them, putting
putting their own political interest
their own political interests ahead of the fight.
ahead of the fight against Castro.
Yeah, against Castro.
Exactly.
And this resentment wasn't
And it wasn't limited
limited to Cuban exile.
to Cuban exiles.
Yeah.
The article even connects these Cuban tensions.
The article even connects these Cuban tensions to other powerful figures who
Right.
might have seen the Kennedys as a threat.
To other powerful figures, right?
Or
People
like Jimmy Hoffa
and J. Edgar Hoover.
and J. Edgar Hoover. It's a reminder
Yeah.
that the Kennedys weren't operating
It's a reminder that the Kennedys weren't
in a vacuum.
operating in a vacuum. They made powerful enemies.
No, they
Those enemies
powerful
had their own motivations
Those enemies had their own motivations
and resources.
and resources.
Of course.
The article also delves into
That's so-
something called a
so get that.
channel.
Communication. Communication between President Kennedy
between President Kennedy
and the USSR.
and the USSR. What exactly
What exactly was going on there?
is going on there?
It was a secret line of communication, a way for Kennedy to reach out
It was a secret line of
directly to Khrushchev
direct,
during the height of the Cold War.
a way for Kennedy to reach out directly to Khrushchev during the height of the Cold War.
What kind of information?
So what kind of information was
Khrushchev
being
shared
through this back channel?
through this back channel.
It's not entirely
But it's
certain,
believed
but it's believed that they discussed
they discussed sensitive issues, potentially including
sensitive issues,
nuclear disarmament
potentially including
and strategies for easing tensions.
between the superpowers.
And strategies for easing tensions between the superpowers.
But remember, this was happening during a time
But remember, this was happening during a time
of intense paranoia and suspicion.
of intense paranoia. Any whiff of collaboration,
and suspicion
any whiff
of
of
collaboration with the Soviets could be seen
could be seen as treasonous
as treasonous by Kennedy's political rivals.
by Kennedy's political rivals.
And speaking of suspicious characters,
All right.
let's talk about Oswald lookalikes.
Oswald lookalikes, okay?
The Dealey Plaza echo.
The Dealey Plaza echo
Really zeroes in.
really zeroes in on the case.
On the case of Donald Wayne House.
Of Donald Wayne House.
Now, this is where things
get really
interesting.
interesting. House was arrested in Fort Worth at almost the same time.
House was arrested in Fort Worth.
That's Oswald in Dallas.
It's also almost the same time as Oswald in Dallas. But here's the catch. House was found with dynamite?
House was found with dynamite in his car.
In his car. Hold on.
At the same time.
At the same time.
That seems like an incredible coincidence.
Coincidence.
It does, doesn't it?
And the timing wasn't the only suspicious detail. There are reports of a possible second arrest.
Oh, really?
At the same location in Fort Worth.
At the same location, okay.
And House's story about where he was headed that day is full of inconsistencies. So is Donald Wayne House.
So is Donald Wayne House meant to be a patsy? A distraction?
Yeah, it's meant to be a patsy.
Or was he somehow part of a larger scheme to frame Oswald?
A distraction. Or was he somehow part of a larger scheme to frame Oswald?
Those are the very questions that the Dealey Plaza echo raises. House's connection to the assassination.
House's connection
to the assassination, if there is one, remains
mystery.
A mystery. He's
a shadowy
figure
lurking on the fringes of the official narrative.
It's
fascinating, but it also makes you question.
How much?
How much?
We really know about what happened.
That day.
Even seemingly minor details.
Can raise major doubts.
And speaking of details.
That raise doubts.
Let's
talk about the mystery.
Let's talk about mystery surrounding the wallets. Apparently there are conflicting
accounts.
About a wallet potentially
Found at the scene of Officer Tippit's murder.
The officer Oswald.
The officer Oswald was accused of killing.
Didn't
an FBI agent, James Hosty,
claim
that a wallet with Oswald's ID was found right there
with Oswald's ID was found
at the scene.
Right there at the scene.
Clearly linking him
to the crime.
to the crime.
He did make that claim. But if you dive deeper,
He did.
you'll find that Dale Myers, in his book With Malice,
in his book With Malice completely debunks Hosty's story. For starters, Myers points out
that the
wallet examined at the Tippit murder scene
wasn't even
the same wallet.
The same wallet that
Oswald had on him when he was arrested. Wow. That's a pretty chic.
And to make things even more confusing.
There are conflicting accounts from various police officers.
About who actually removed Oswald's wallet.
And
when he was identified both as
Oswald's wallet and when he was identified.
And under the alias Heidel.
Both as Oswald and under the alias Heidel.
It's incredibly difficult to piece together. A reliable narrative.
There's never a reliable narrative. From all these conflicting reports.
It's like everyone has a slightly different version.
Of events.
Exactly.
And it's not just the wallets.
There's
a similar lack of clarity. Surrounding how empty shell casings.
Things of the Tippit murder scene were handled.
How empty shell casings from the Tippit murder scene were handled.
Makes you wonder what other details might have been overlooked or misconstrued.
It makes you wonder.
In the rush to solve the case.
What other details might have been overlooked or misconstrued in the rush to solve the case?
It's like trying to solve a puzzle.
It's like
where some of the pieces are missing.
To solve a puzzle where some of the pieces...
the ones you have don't quite fit together.
Are missing. And the ones that you have don't quite fit together.
Great analogy.
That's a great analogy.
And it speaks to the enduring fascination.
And it speaks to the enduring fascination.
Surrounding the JFK assassination.
Surrounding the JFK assassination.
Even with all the investigations and research.
Even with all the investigations and research.
There's still gaps in our understanding.
There are still gaps in our understanding, and
those
gaps leave room for
doubt.
Speculation.
And a desire.
And a desire to keep searching for answers. It really makes you think, how much can we ever truly know about an event like this?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Even with all the evidence, all the eyewitness accounts,
Right.
still
a sense of mystery surrounding the JFK assassination.
that sense of mystery. Yeah. And that's precisely why it continues to captivate our attention, right?
It does.
Like the human mind, it craves certainty.
Yeah.
When we're confronted with unanswered questions, lingering doubts, it fuels our desire to keep searching for the truth.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
So the last piece we're going to look at from the Dealey Plaza Echo is a book review of Mrs. Payne's Garage and the Murder of JFK by Thomas Mallon.
Okay.
Now, this book focuses on a woman named Ruth Payne.
Ruth Payne, a fascinating figure in this whole story. Right?
Yeah.
She was a Quaker who befriended Marina Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald's wife. And she offered her family a place to stay.
Right.
It was a gesture of kindness.
Right.
But it ended up placing her right at the center.
Right at the center.
Of one of the most significant events in American history.
Yeah, because of course it was in Ruth Payne's garage.
Exactly.
Where Oswald stored the rifle that was allegedly used to assassinate President Kennedy.
Right. And the book review highlights some pretty controversial claims. The book review highlights some pretty controversial claims about Oswald's behavior.
In the days leading up to the assassination.
Like
the fact that he seemed to react rather nonchalantly.
Right.
When Marina told him about Kennedy's upcoming visit to Dallas.
About Kennedy's upcoming visit to Dallas?
Yeah, it's not exactly the response you'd expect.
It's not the response you'd expect from someone who is supposedly planning to kill the president.
Right. And from someone who is supposedly planning to kill the president.
It feeds into this larger question that the book explores.
Yeah.
Was Oswald solely driven by ideology?
Right.
Or were there other factors, perhaps personal ones, at play?
Yeah, it challenges that simplistic image of Oswald as a fervent, single-minded fanatic.
It does. It challenges that, right? It adds another layer
of complexity.
That mentions that
Oswald's character was actually trying to get Marina to move back in with him.
Doesn't it?
The day before the assassination.
Was he a cold-blooded killer?
Again.
A manipulated patsy? Or a man caught in a web of circumstances beyond his control?
Not exactly the behavior you'd expect.
The Echo doesn't offer a definitive answer, but
from somebody about to commit such a high-profile crime,
encourages us to question those easy narratives.
Right. It adds another layer of complexity
that have often been presented about him.
To Oswald's character, doesn't it? Was he a cold-blooded killer?
Exactly.
A manipulated patsy? Or a man caught in a web of circumstances beyond his control?
Exactly.
The Dealey Plaza Echo doesn't offer a definitive answer.
It doesn't.
But it encourages us to question those easy narratives that have often been presented about him.
And
then there's a whole issue of the backyard photographs of Oswald.
The backyard photograph.
Holding the rifle in communist newspapers.
Right.
And the book review.
The book review even touches on the possibility that those photos might have...
Even touches on the possibility that those photos might have been faked.
Yeah, the authenticity of those photographs has been a source of debate for decades.
Right.
What's crucial here is that the Echo doesn't shy away from presenting multiple viewpoints.
Right. It's about looking...
And even those that challenge the conventional wisdom.
At all the evidence weighing the different interpretations. And forming your own conclusions.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. It's not about telling you what to think.
It's
about giving you the tools to think critically.
And engage with this complex and fascinating historical event.
And engage with this complex...
fascinating historical event.
And engage with this complex...
more nuanced way.
And fascinating historical event.
Right.
In a more nuanced way. Now, it's important to note...
It is important to note...
that Mrs. Payne's garage itself...
The Mrs. Payne's garage...
has been the subject itself has been the subject of some controversy.
Some controversy.
There are those who accuse...
the author of bias.
The author of bias and factual inaccuracies.
Factual inaccuracies, particularly when it comes to evidence that contradicts the lone gunman theory.
Particularly when it comes to evidence that contradicts the lone gunman theory.
Yeah.
It's a valid point.
Whenever we're dealing with a controversial event like the JFK assassination.
We're dealing with a controversial event like the JFK assassination.
It's essential to be aware.
It's essential to be aware of the author's perspective and potential biases.
Of the author's perspective.
So we should always...
And potential biases.
Take everything with a grain of salt.
So we should always take everything with a grain of salt, do our own research, and consider all sides of the story.
Absolutely. No historical account is completely objective.
Right.
And it's up to us.
No historical account is completely objective.
To be discerning readers.
And it's up to us to be discerning readers.
And listeners to weigh the evidence and consider different interpretations.
And listeners to weigh the evidence and consider different interpretations. So
what does all of this...
What does all of this tell us about Dealey Plaza?
Tell us about Dealey Plaza.
We've journeyed through its history.
We've journeyed
met some intriguing characters.
Through its history. Met some intriguing characters.
And wrestled with unanswered questions. It's clearly more than just the site of an assassination.
More than just the site of an assassination. It's a place.
It's a place.
Where history unfolds in layers. Where personal stories intersect with national tragedy.
Where history unfolds.
And where the search for truth
continues. Where personal stories intersect with national tragedies. And where the search for truth continues to this day.
It's fascinating how these seemingly
disparate pieces from the echo.
Disparate pieces from the Dealey Plaza echo have come together. To provide such a rich and thought-provoking exploration of this iconic location. What I find most compelling is how this deep dive has highlighted the enduring fascination surrounding the JFK assassination. Even decades later, we're still trying to piece together the puzzle. To make sense of what happened. And why. And Dealey Plaza remains in the center of it all. The Warren Castor story. The Donald Wayne house arrest. The mystery of the wallets, the controversy surrounding Ruth Paine. It all adds to the intrigue, reminding us that even in a case as meticulously examined as this one, there are still gaps in our understanding, pieces of the puzzle that haven't quite fallen into place. Exactly. And that's what makes this exploration so thought-provoking. If even the history of Dealey Plaza holds so many layers. And unanswered questions. What other hidden connections? And untold stories might be waiting to be uncovered. In the vast archive. In the vast archive of JFK assassination research. It's a question. It's a question. Sure to keep researchers and historians busy. For years to come. And historians busy for years to come. And it leaves us, the listeners, with a sense of wonder and a thirst. For more knowledge. To our listener. With a sense of wonder. I encourage you. And a thirst for more knowledge. Don't let this be the end of your exploration. Keep digging, keep questioning, and keep seeking out the truth. The history of Dealey Plaza, like the history of the JFK assassination itself, is a story that's still being written. I encourage you, don't let this be the end of your exploration. Exactly. Keep digging. Exactly. Keep questioning. And keep seeking out the truth. The history of Dealey Plaza, like the history of the JFK assassination itself, is a story that's still being written. Yeah. It's amazing to think that a place like Dealey Plaza, which might seem like just another city square This holds so many secrets.
So many secrets.
Stories.
It's a reminder that history isn't just, confined to textbooks and museums.
It's all around us.
It's all around us.
Woven into the fabric of the places we inhabit.
Woven into the very fabric.
And sometimes all it takes is a deep dive.
The places we inhabit.
Into a single location.
And sometimes.
To uncover a world of intrigue.
All it takes is a deep dive into a single location to uncover.
And unanswered questions.
A world of intrigue and unanswered questions.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here.
We've just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
So much more to explore.
So many different avenues to investigate.
So many different avenues to investigate.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. This deep dive into the echo has given us a glimpse into the complexity of the JFK assassination.
Just deep dive.
But it's also sparked a desire to learn more.
Has given us a glimpse.
To keep digging for those elusive truths.
Into the complexity of the JFK assassination. But it's also sparked a desire to learn more, to keep digging for those elusive truths.
For sure. Who knows what other mysteries are hidden within the walls of those buildings or beneath the pavement?
What other mysteries are hidden
those streets
within the walls of those buildings or beneath the pavement of those streets?
Maybe someday some of those mysteries will be revealed.
Maybe someday.
But for now, we're left with the echoes of the past, whispering their secrets.
Some of those mysteries will be revealed.
And challenging us to keep searching for answers.
But for now, we're left with the echoes of the past whispering their secrets and challenging us to keep searching for answers.
Wow.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the Dealey Plaza Echo.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey through history, filled with fascinating insights.
Through history, filled with fascinating insights.
And thought-provoking questions.
It's been a pleasure sharing this exploration with you.
It really has.
And I hope it's inspired you.
And I hope it's inspired you to continue your own investigation.
Our own investigation into the events.
Into the events surrounding the JFK assassination.
Surrounding the JFK assassination.
And to our listener, remember, history is an ongoing conversation.
To our listener, remember, history is an ongoing...
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Challenge assumptions.
Don't be asked questions.
And seek out multiple perspectives.
To challenge assumptions and seek out multiple...
Because sometimes the most unexpected discoveries are hidden in plain sight.
Because sometimes...
Just waiting to be uncovered.
The most unexpected discoveries are hidden in plain sight.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Just waiting to be uncovered. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.
Keep those minds curious.
And those questions coming.
We'll see you then.